Hi, and welcome to Random Fandom FC, the podcast where each week I meet a new fan and explore how they came to support their team, what's been their highest high, their lowest low, and anything else I should know. We look ahead to their next game and get a prediction, and then next week we'll check in to see if we were a blessing or a curse to the teams that we follow. My name's Rob, an Arsenal fan living in the States, and I'll be your host. Okay, time to check in on last week's games. That was Derby County, as we had Steve come on. He gave us two predictions, actually. There was the game against Blackburn and the game against Coventry, both at home, and he went for 2-1 for both of them. Very bullish, considering they're in a relegation scrap, but wow, did he nail it. First game up, Derby against Blackburn. Derby raced into a 2-0 lead after only 7 minutes. Goals through Craig Forsyth and Naboo Adams put them 2-0 up. Gaya grabbed one back just before half-time for Blackburn. Stayed that way then for the rest of the game. 2-1. Steve nails his prediction. Roll on to Tuesday night at home to Coventry. High-flying Coventry at that as Frank Lampard brings the team to town. But Derby, again, race into a 2-0 lead. Well, race, not as fast as the previous one, but 23 minutes on the clock. Matthew Clark puts them 1-0 up. 48 minutes, Marcus Harness makes it 2-0. And that's it. That's the way it stays. So 2 out of 2 for Derby County. So well done, Steve. Well done, Derby. Right, let's take a look to this week's fan now. And stick around afterwards for a little something different this week as well. Who are you and who do you support?
Hello, Rob. My name is Simon Gibson and I support the mighty Imps, Lincoln City.
The mighty Imps. You know, when I saw you sign up to do this, I always like looking at clubs' nicknames, and a lot of nicknames are really obvious for where they came from, and I had no clue. I ended up, you can keep me honest here. I went online and said, according to legend, the Lincoln Imp was a creature sent by the devil to cause chaos in the Lincoln Cathedral. It says that, as the story goes, an angel appeared and turned the imp into stone, where it has remained ever since. And over the centuries has evolved into not just a cathedral legend, but a symbol of the city, and appears on the emblem of Lincoln City FC. That's what I found online. Am I right, Simon?
You are right. You are right. And yes, the Lincoln Imp statue is still in Lincoln Cathedral. And I think, like any true Lincoln fan, I have done my pilgrimage to go and see it.
Fantastic. So we always have to start at the beginning, like we do with everybody. So why and when Lincoln City?
Yeah, and it's funny because I feel like I've got one of the more unusual origin stories because I don't come from a football family. You know, it wasn't like dad or granddad was taking me to football. And also, I was born in England, but my family moved when I was very young to South Wales. So I didn't really feel like a locational allegiance to a football team. And it was in the fledgling days of the internet, the old dial-up and chat rooms, and I was making friends online. I happened to have made a friend up in Lincoln, and also some friends that were local to me. We started playing football manager games. So I needed a team to pick. And for no other reason, I picked Lincoln City because I was chatting with someone from Lincoln City. And then I started to follow their results online or in the papers as it was back then. And yeah, eventually I just became known as a Lincoln City fan. Locally, someone that did go to watch Cardiff matches regularly offered to take me to my first football match away at Cardiff, away at Ninian Park on a cold November night. And yeah, and it's funny listening to some of the stories that people have got about, what their first experience was like. I mean, mine was crazy because I was sat with the home fans at Ninian Park as a Lincoln fan, and we were 2-1 up. And this was, I can't remember if Cardiff got promoted that season, but they're certainly doing very well that season. And with 5 minutes to go, we conceded 2 goals to lose 3-2. And yeah, I was still smitten that, and after that, I knew that following football was something that I wanted to do.
So you had to sit there trying not to look too smug while you were 2-1 up, and then having to fake excitement while everyone around you is going nuts celebrating the turnaround 3-2 victory, and you're going, yay.
Well, and the funniest thing is because that was my introduction to live football, was going as a Lincoln fan to the home end and at away matches. I didn't know that you could get tickets as an away fan at grounds. So like my first dozen or so matches, I was always in with the home fans. It's like wrapped up, like trying not to cheer whenever we scored. It wasn't for quite a few years into supporting football. I was like, oh, hang on, I can actually get fans with the tickets with the Lincoln fans.
Oh, nice. So you were basically undercover fan for a while.
Exactly, exactly.
You said you did the pilgrimage to the cathedral. I assume that means you've also been along and been to some home games now. So when did you get to your first one of those then?
First Lincoln home game was a few years after uh, I started sporting. Probably, nowadays you'd be called a glory hunter or a plastic, because actually my first home match was in 2003, which was after I went to see Lincoln at the playoff finals at the Millennium Stadium, which was the end of the season before, also 2003.
Like I always say, it's like everyone's got their own way in. There's no right way or wrong way in. So your team is your team for life. But how you find them, yeah, it's a personal story. So as are the highs and lows that you witnessed during your kind of window into a club, right? We all have our own view of these teams that have existed for some of them like 100 years or more, and we just know them for a little period of time. So, in your world of supporting them, what's been kind of the lowest low so far? Because I did see a little stat, and I don't know how many of them you've been a fan through, but apparently they hold the record. Where is it for being the most relegations out of the football league? Now they've obviously bounced back that same number of times because they're still in the football league. I think it says like they've had like is it 5 times they've anyway. Over to you, Phil. What's been your lowest low along the way?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? What counts as highs and lows when you're following a football club? Because obviously, there's the bad results, and especially the rainy away days. We've all been through those, and I think some of the lows for me, weirdly, the second playoff final that I went to, because we did two playoff finals at the Millennium Stadium. First against Bournemouth, where we were quite handily beaten, and probably rightly so in the end. But the second was at Southend. And I can remember it was quite a dire match. Neither team sort of really looked like winning. It was really, which team was going to lose it. And I can remember one fan turning around towards the end of the match, it's still 0-0 at that point, I think, and just shouting to the rest of the Lincoln fans, do something. And it's that despondency when you sort of sat watching a team, like just wishing that they would do something. But then I think, sometimes that desire to do something can almost be the undoing of teams. And I know that you've spoken to a number of fans already that have had issues with the finances of the team, and pushing to get promotion and then failing and spending money they haven't really got and ending up with failure. And we get a lot of fans. I know there's a lot of fans for other clubs as well that grumble about how the team isn't spending money that we don't have, like trying to get promotion. And say the season's over in January when when we're out of the cups and stuff. But I'm like, we're the pretty much the highest we've ever been in our sort of history. There's been a couple of times just after the war where we were in the second tier. But being in the third tier consistently and safely, to me that's a lot of success. And I think sometimes a lot of fans, they always push for these big results and these big outcomes, and maybe put the future of the club in jeopardy.
The team went into administration, didn't they, in the early 2000s? I think it was like 2002 or something.
We did indeed, yes.
As per the other guys that have been on, that's got to be scary moments because it's that whole will the club still exist type thing. Now, how long? I didn't see how long you guys were in administration for.
I believe it was only a few months. I think we went into it sort of at the end of one season, and we're out of the administration before the start of the next season, thanks to some fantastic work from the fans, obviously. But yeah, probably more worrying for us was actually after that, about a decade after that, when we got relegated out of the Football League, because we really weren't sure at that point how we were going to get it back into the league. The club was still at that point really struggling financially, and we were out of the Football League for 6 years, and that was an incredible journey. We had to sack most of the players, get in managers that could build a squad on a nod and a wink. At one point, one of the board members had to step in and manage the team for a season because we couldn't afford to imagine.
Really?
Yeah. I found out Chris Moses, I think his name was, and Moises, and he's actually credited with the start of the recovery by a lot of fans. He managed to make a lot of good signings, and the club as a whole for the level and start to build the foundations that would later see the Cowley brothers be attracted to the football club and really, kick on from where we were to lay the foundations for where we are today.
Excellent. Well, let's pivot towards then. Give me your take on your highest high. I do have one little thing to add in here, if you don't happen to talk about it now. But let's.
I wonder what that could be.
I don't know. So, what's been the highest high on your Lincoln City journey?
One of the things that I really enjoy, I don't know if it's a specific high, but one of the things I like about following a football club, especially the likes of Lincoln City, is you get to travel the country and visit the lots of interesting little places and big places within the UK. So I've quite enjoyed away days at places like Morecambe and Fleetwood and Burton and other places where you can really make a weekend of it. Go and have a few beers, have a few a bit of banter with the fans. So those are always really fun days out. Or some of the big or important wins. I can remember going away and winning at Milton Keynes, MK Dons in their new stadium, relatively new still. One of the seasons where we need to get promotion. That's always good fun. And really just, enjoying taking family. So my son, my daughter, when he was around, my dad to football matches. And it's that sort of thing, really, that for me are my highs, as opposed to any one specific result. But there certainly was one particular run, which, I'm not going to speak about it yet, but I suspect it might be something that you might want to ask about.
Well, when I had a look at actually, before I get to kind of the two bits I looked into that could be Lincoln highs, just want to dig into that a bit. So you're a big away day guy then. You sound like you follow Lincoln far and wide. I always think that's great. I've never tended to get to as many away days as I would like to, but I always like um, kind of almost the them against us, where it's usually a smaller group of you traveling away and you go into the home team and they've got three sides of the stadium and
Yeah.
maybe you've got one little corner and you're going to see if you can sing louder than they can. There's something about away day atmosphere which is just, magical, I think. So you're a big away dayer.
Yeah, absolutely. I would recommend that to anyone. Get to as many away days as you can because it's exactly that. There's usually a hardy band of diehard away followers that will sing and drum for as much of the match as they possibly can. It's always nice to be part of the banter. So, where you're shouting the home fans for not singing loudly enough or often enough, or only singing when they're scoring goals against you, is often the case for us. So but it's also a nice way to see other parts of the country. I haven't looked at my stats recently because this season, for the first time, I've actually been a season ticket holder. So I've been enjoying upping my number of matches at the true home of football, Sincil Bank, as I call it, LNER Stadium for the advertisement now. But for most of my football career, I've seen far more away matches than I've seen home matches, given that a home match is a 7-hour round trip for me at the moment.
Well, that's fair enough. But I mean, there's some long old trips in there as well. Have you done like proper far and wide away dayers? What's your biggest away day you've done that you can think of?
Yeah, so done like day trips to Bolton and stuff like that. That's quite a long one. To be fair, some of the long ones like Fleetwood and Morecambe are probably the furthest away from me geographically. I've tended to do those when I'm either driving past there anyway or make a weekend of it. I haven't yet done Carlisle. I was annoyed I missed them when they were in the same league as us, and they seem to be in danger of getting relegated out of the Football League altogether. So not sure that if they'll come back anytime soon.
Oh no, that's cool. So yeah, if we do look at the two things that I picked out as, I wonder if you'll pick these. Well, yeah, 2016, 2017, you became the first non-league club that progressed to the last day of the FA Cup. And you had some scalps along the way, right? You beat Ipswich. It says you beat Championship side Ipswich, Championship leaders Brighton and Hove Albion. Burnley were in the Premier League at the time, and you beat them, and you got through to the quarterfinals. So, like, an amazing run. It came to an end in the quarterfinals.
Against a certain team.
Did you manage to away day that? Because that was at the Emirates, wasn't it, when you played Arsenal?
That was at the Emirates. I tried and I couldn't get tickets. Curiously, I believe it was 8 years ago to the day today, that game against Arsenal. I believe so.
Oh, okay. And to be fair, I looked into it. I went onto YouTube. I watched the highlights because I will admit to not remembering this game inside out. But 40, no, not even more, 46 minutes Lincoln held out for. It's a Theo Walcott deflected strike right on the stroke of half time that puts Arsenal 1-0 up. The main clip from the first half is not even all Arsenal. It is one Nathan Arnold going on a mazy run, skinning a couple of Arsenal defenders and forcing Czech into a fingertip save around the post. So who knows,
100%. If that goal had gone in, yeah, if that goal had gone in, and because I believe that was at the time when Wenger was still managing the club, but just barely. I don't remember if it was the season after he left, but I remember there being a lot of angst in the Arsenal camp at Wenger at that time. And I think if we'd scored that goal and then held on till half time, the fans might have gotten Arsenal's back, and that might have been a very different match.
Yeah, no, you're right. There was a set of demonstrations outside. I think either before the game. I think there were a lot of people calling for Wenger's head at that time. Well, what might have been fell away. I think it's an own goal just after half time. A Sanchez beauty from outside the area, and then I think Ramsey and Giroud, whatever order,
Yeah,
5-0. But it
and
doesn't matter. Do you know what? I love. I am such a sucker for the FA Cup. I absolutely love it. I have to explain what it is to a lot of my American friends because they don't get the idea of this. What do you mean Arsenal can play non-league team like Lincoln? How does that work? I'm like, because it's amazing and it's not seeded and it's totally random and you get these David killing Goliath stories left, right, and centre. So that must have been a phenomenal run. I think probably most Lincoln fans saw it come into an end at the Emirates because you just think that way when it's a Premier League team like that. But no, that was an absolute brilliant run by Lincoln. The other one I had was 2017, 2018 beat Shrewsbury 1-0 in the final of the EFL Trophy.
yeah,
It's always nice to win a bit of silverware.
exactly. That one I was there for. Did manage to get tickets for that one with friends. That self-same friend who I originally spoke to and became the Lincoln fan. Her family and my family were there together, enjoying a day out at Wembley, winning the match, which we didn't expect to. Shrewsbury were the league above us at the time, which is crazy to think now, given that Shrewsbury are struggling as we record today to stay in the League One, and we're sat there comfortably. But no, they were very much the team expected to win, and that was another match where you think what might have been, because we do quite like a bit of a robust and cheeky striker in Lincoln if we can get them. And at the time we had one, Matt Reed, who was fantastic, a real character on the pitch, and some Shrewsbury fans, I'm sure, might be a little unhappy about that match and that result, because just before they conceded the goal, Matt Reed had put, should we say, a robust strikers challenge on their keeper. And while he was dusting himself off again for the next few minutes after that challenge was when we scored our one goal, and then we held on for the victory. So maybe not a match for the ages, but we did what needed to be done, and had a fantastic day out at Wembley.
Oh, that's awesome. That's brilliant. Nice that it's kind of full circle as well with kind of the family of the guy that first introduced you to the team. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
As I kind of just look down here, I've started in the recent ones kind of looking at players that might catch my eye. Now, I've got to be honest. I'm going to be brutally honest with you here, Simon. Not a big who's list that I was looking at going, oh yeah, I remember that player. I remember that player. So there's two that caught my eye as I went down, players that have come and played for Lincoln and maybe gone on to other things. They were both loan signings. They're both current players. You got Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa, was on loan in 2021, 25 appearances, 6 goals. And Brennan Johnson, who's now at Spurs, played 43 times for you and 11 goals in 2020, again on loan, I think from Forest at the time.
Yeah.
Everyone else in there, and you can correct me if I'm being harsh, but there's a big band of what I would maybe call journeymen that have played at that same level. Like you say, you've bounced back and forth between the third and fourth tier a lot. You've got a lot of players in the history that kind of always played at that tier as well. I didn't see any big names. So
yeah, I think that's fair. Certainly in the past. I mean, we have had quite a good run of goalkeepers recently. So we've got Alex Palmer in that same team that lost in the playoff finals to Blackpool, who's now Ipswich's goalkeeper. So Premier League goalkeeper. Liam Bridcote we had playing for us in that team as well, and a few other players. So yeah, it's our recruitment has certainly improved over the last 5 years or so, I'd say. And again, it's another thing that makes me laugh, because we get our director of football, Jez George. I personally think he's a very good guy. He came from Cambridge, I think it was, and has been instrumental in sort of separating the manager managing the day-to-day playing, and the director of football looking more long-term, so that if you do change manager, Lincoln, to be fair, we don't tend to hire and fire managers, but it does mean that you can keep that consistency of the identity of the football club and how the players you recruit and how you want to play, and then hire a manager that suits that rather than getting the new manager, having the new manager get rid of all the old players and bring in their players, and that be quite a painful cycle. So yeah, we've got players like Ethan O'Rahan, who came from the Scottish Premier League to join us, and he's a prospect player that we're building up for the future in the hopes of being able to sell him on and make good money. We try to do the same with quite an interesting Dutch defender, Lewis Monsma, who's looking really good, but he had a really bad ACL injury that he's just coming back from. So yeah, it's one of those sort of. I think we're trying to emulate the Exeter, the Peterborough model, kind of ideally the Brentford model, right, where you get clubs that sign players, develop them, and then sell them on and become sustainable.
Yeah, yeah. And what I was going to say is it actually even doesn't matter that there isn't this kind of who's list, because really, again, players and favorite players is a another personal thing. So forgetting whether or not someone has gone on to much bigger things, who right now is the favorite player for you? Whether it's a striker or a tricky winger that gets you up off the seat when they get the ball, or it's a defender you love to see put in a crunching tackle. Who's kind of your favorite player in the squad at the moment?
Oh, favorite player in the squad at the moment.
Or all time, if you want to go like over your fandom, anybody that really sticks out, it's either way.
Yeah, no, I think Ben House is someone who's he maybe hasn't had such a good season this season, but he's a striker that's developed over the years for us, and he's quite a nice guy. I had a soft spot. I have to say, we sold him last season. I had a soft spot for Lasse Sorensen. He's gone to Huddersfield, I think it was, and he was someone who. For the first couple of seasons, probably didn't quite find his place in the team and maybe even his football skills. But really in the final season of the team, really kicked on and was one of the first names on the team sheet. But also just a really great guy, and so many the players at Lincoln City, are just really good, really supportive of the community. And at that lower level, you really feel like you can still connect with these people as individuals. Whereas, when someone's, being sold for £100 million or whatever it is, they don't necessarily feel like real people anymore.
True, true. Okay, so as we kind of look ahead, like right now, as I check the table today, Lincoln, I'll go out on a limb and say they're safe. They're kind of right in the middle of the table. It's very unlikely they're going to put a run together and get to the playoffs, but it's also not looking over your shoulder that you're in danger of getting dragged into any relegation fights. So, but you may have a say in that relegation fight because this weekend, 13th place Lincoln taking on 20th place Bristol Rovers, who are hovering, I think, right above the line. I looked at the head to head. 10 meetings, 4 wins each and 2 draws. You couldn't kind of split it anymore. Your form is you've won 2 of your last 5 and lost 3. They've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 3. However, I'm sure you would love to repeat last year's meeting because I looked just to see how you got on last year at Lincoln. It was 5-0 at home last year, this fixture.
Yeah.
Well, what's your thinking? Is it going to be a repeat of that, or where's your thoughts going on the prediction here?
So I would definitely, obviously, like we've had a few. We beat Peterborough, was it 5-1 this season? I know we beat Mansfield 3-0 a few weeks ago, so we definitely can put a big result together. I don't know though. Bristol Rovers, you got to think, scrapping for their lives, they need the points. We can be a bit sort of betwixt and between performances. Some days, all the pieces seem to work together. Other days, just not quite gelling. And we do seem to concede more often than not, more match than not, a mistake goal from the defence, which can be frustrating, especially if we concede first and then sort of fall behind in the match. But so I'm going to be positive. I'm going to put my Lincoln hat on and say that it's going to be 2-1 to Lincoln City.
Okay, 2-1. Because I was having a little look, yes, you lost at the weekend to Birmingham, but they're flying high. You were away at their place and it took a penalty to beat you. So I'm kind of thinking, despite that's a loss, probably portrays Lincoln as actually playing quite well in that game. I didn't see it, so I don't know, but I'm just going to say on Form Guide, that's actually not a bad result.
No, absolutely. We're very happy with that.
Bristol scrapping for every point in the moment and have to get it. You might have the pipe and slippers on now because kind of settled into mid-table. I'm gonna give him a plucky point. Sorry, I'm gonna go for 1-1. So neither of us are predicting a loss at least. Which
no, absolutely. And do you know what? Any team below us at this stage of the season will take them just not getting more points than us. Every draw is points they can't catch us with. So.
Well, exactly, yeah. So what's the kind of feeling around this squad at the moment? As you look at the team, is this a a building year to go again? Would you say you've been lucky to finish 13th or unlucky not to be higher? What would you like to see? Is next year a title charge, a playoff charge? What are you feeling on this current squad and where they are?
So I think we're definitely in development at the moment. I think one of the things that we hear quite a lot is that in terms of budget, we understand because the FA has this information, releases it to the clubs, although it's not fully made public. The clubs can make their position in the budget table public, and we're told that we're 19th in the budget table. So if we have the 19th biggest budget and we finish sort of around 13th, around 10th, that we have achieved an objective there of staying above where we are in our budget. And if you look at some of the big teams that are in the league, that are going to have, only 3 teams go up. So there's still going to be some very big teams in this league, some very big spenders, probably going to be some big spenders coming down from the championship as well. So at this stage, I think, we're still, next season with the squad we've got at the moment, I think we should be safe. I think we probably need a bit of good fortune in terms of injuries and players really sort of gelling together if we're going to head for the playoffs. But as I say, for a club, some fans might not like me saying it, but a club the size of Lincoln, in League One, if we have another season where we're comfortably mid-table, and we know we're going to be able to enjoy the football season after, in 10 years time, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make about, I've heard other fans kind of do that. Where are you on the budget table? And if you can punch above your weight and finish higher than where you are on that, then that's all you can really expect. Yes, people can want to say, oh, we should be winning the league, we should be going for the playoffs. But if you're that far down on the budget table, then finishing mid-table is definitely a success. And like you say, there could be some big teams as well. Who knows? And please, nobody from my prior life back home come and get me on this one, but you could be being joined by Cardiff again and going away to Cardiff next season.
It has been discussed. It has been discussed.
So, no, I really appreciate you coming on, talking all things Lincoln. Simon will be cheering on Lincoln against Bristol Rovers this weekend, seeing if we can add another win in the win column for Random Fandom. It's kind of split at the moment. I'm kind of maybe going to do an update after the 10th episode. This is number 9. I'm going to publish a little league table to kind of, win draws and losses for teams we followed. And right now, after 8, I think it's kind of almost split across the board with a couple of draws thrown in. So I want Lincoln to push us over the edge and have a positive win record. So, yep.
We will do our best.
Nice one. Take it easy, Simon. Thanks again for coming on and doing this.
Thanks, Rob. Enjoy.
So on Random Fandom, as you know, we tend to look ahead to next week's game when we speak to our fan. But because Simon was going to the Lincoln game and had promised to do the match report from inside the stand after the game, couldn't miss that opportunity. I probably should have got him to predict the Exeter game, and we will still do a match review of the Exeter match next week for Lincoln City. But listen and enjoy our first live from a stadium match report as Simon gives us the report of Lincoln City versus Bristol Rovers. Over to you, Simon.
Hello Rob, this is Simon reporting from Sincil Bank on the Lincoln City versus Bristol Rovers result. Before the match I predicted a 2-1 win and you predicted a draw. As it turns out, we were both wrong. It's been a sunny but fresh spring afternoon here, perfect for an exciting game of football. Like the weather, Lincoln started off brightly and enjoyed the better of the chances in the first half, albeit with Bristol always looking for the chance to spring a counter. On the half-hour mark, a well-worked goal for Lincoln by Jova McCarver was well deserved. Lincoln had the better chances in the rest of the first half, but with no further goals, it was time to get a warming Bovril, with the score still at 1-0 to Lincoln and both our predictions remaining in play. In the Stacey West pre-match podcast, they had warned that Bristol are weak to set pieces, and that came to pass within 5 minutes of the restart when Tom Bayliss scored direct from a corner to make the scores 2-0 to Lincoln. City kept the pressure up, and within 5 minutes, Collins scored the third goal for the Imps, ending both our predictions. Bristol hadn't given up the fight, and after the third goal, but a good individual effort to hold off a grappling defender on 64 minutes, saw McCarmer get the fourth for the Imps and send the home fans singing through the roof. City made a raft of changes on 70 minutes, but Bristol hadn't given up the fight and forced some good saves from Wickens in the Lincoln goal. Lincoln hadn't given up the fight either, and after a couple of corners and a goal-mouth scramble on 80 minutes, McCarmer scored the 5th of the match for Lincoln, his first hat-trick for the club, to match last season's score. At full time, it was smiles around for the Lincoln City fans, this time on the winning side of a 5-0 scoreline.